So, is there any truth in this? Do you regard yourself, does Hungary regard itself as an ally of Putin?
No, that's ally is a very strong and clear meaning expression. It's not simply. But the question is, what is the relationship between Hungary and Russia, especially under this war which is going on? So it's a serious question. We have a very simple geopolitical strategy, which says that we would not like to have, again, common border with Russia. Because during the Soviet times, Soviet Union and Hungary has a common border. So we would not like to have it again. Therefore, we respect the rights of Ukraine, sovereignty of Ukraine, the right of Ukrainian people to create their own and maintain their own state. So therefore, invasion of Putin against Ukraine is totally against the values of international relations and all the values we all respect. So no question of that. But the Hungarian point of interest is that something must be between Russia and Hungary. So this is the number one. So we support Ukraine to survive somehow, which is questioned because Ukraine is not more sovereign state. Ukraine is now just protectorate of the West. So without getting the money and the weapons from the European Union and United States, Ukraine as a state would cease to exist. So it's not a sovereign state anymore, just to be very clear. But something must exist there anyway. That's the first point. Second, Hungary has always a good economic relation with Russia. So I would not like to give up that kind of cooperation, because the war between Ukraine and Russia is not the war of the Hungarians. It's a war of two Slavic nations. One big Slavic nation attacked another one, and they have a war. And we don't behave like the Europeans who said, oh, it's our war, because it's about values, it's about international order whatsoever, so we are in the war, it's our war. But not fully, because we would not like to die, you know. So please, Ukrainians, die. We give the money and give the weapon and defend our values, please. So it's not so much our war to go into and to take the life risks there to fight there, but just, you know, to finance your life. So I don't like that approach at all. But at the same time, it's obvious that each nation, even the Ukrainians, has the right to decide whether they would like to fight and die for their freedom or not. So I don't criticize the Ukrainians why they have a war against Ukraine, because they defend their own country or nation. So it's their decision. The other question is whether they are doing it cleverly or not. But it's their job to answer, not mine. But my job as an outsider is only to define and understand what is the reason of the war. And the reason of the war is very simple. It's called NATO membership. And just as a country who was occupied by the Russians for 45 years, I can say on personal experiences that Russians will never allow to have membership of Ukraine as it is now in NATO. For the geopolitical thinking, it's impossible. They will always do everything to have something between the Russian border and NATO countries' border. It could be called Ukraine, it could be war zone, it could be called wars, whatever. But a buffer zone must exist between NATO and Ukraine. Probably it's not a legitimate request on behalf of the Russians, because it's outside the territory of Russia. So probably it's illegitimate, but this is the fact. And if we don't answer to the question clearly, whether we would like to encourage Ukraine to join NATO or to say, guys, you have to understand that you are a buffer zone country. You can't change your house number. So we create a reasonable policy which is adequate to the geographical position. So it's our option. Unfortunately, we are not doing to deliver evidences that ceasefire and negotiations would be better than continue to war. We're just delivering evidences to the Ukrainians that die more, fight more, and you will win. It's definitely true. They cannot win. Because it's not about the values, it's not about my heart, it's not about my philosophical conviction, it's about reality. So that war has no solution on the battleground. What is even more sad, it's easy to imagine a situation when the Ukrainians will not get a better peace after losing hundreds of thousands of people than they would have got without having the war, which raised many philosophical and spiritual and moral issues. So I think what we Europeans are doing is bad. It's not targeted on ceasefire, and we don't confront it seriously with all the consequences of supporting a country who is in a war which cannot be won. So that's a big bulk of the problem and difficulties concerning the war. So it's not about Putin ally, it's about the truth, it's about the reality.